guys, my name is Trinh and today I'm here to do my July wrap-up. In July, I read 17 books, I believe. Yeah, 17 books. I participated in 2 readathons. I failed them both, but that is totally okay because I just want to read the books that I want to read. But then also I want to read books at my own pace. So yeah, 17 books. So let's get started before this video is like 30 minutes long. The first book that I read in July is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I actually read this book 2 years ago, but I don't know why. I feel like I've seen a few people on Twitter reading this book and I really wanted to reread it. So I actually did in the beginning of the month. I actually got the audiobook on Libby and I just annotated this book while I was listening to the audiobook, and I think that is the way to go because the audiobook is really short because this is a novel with verse. Basically, this book is about a main character named Will. In the beginning of this book, his older brother named Sean is shot dead. He is determined to find the killer and kill that person. That's all I can say, but damn, this book is amazing. Rereading this, I just really appreciate how this story is being told. In this book, they talk about the 3 rules that a lot of people know. Number 1 is no crying. Number 2 is no snitching. And then number 3 is revenge. Those rules have like a huge influence on a lot of people, including our main character. I cannot say much regarding how this is told, but it has to do with elevators and seeing people who have died in the past. Is such an important book because it's a commentary on violence within the Black community. It is a very sad book, but still I think everyone needs to read it, so I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is Saigon, a misfits memoir of great books, punk rock, and the fight to fit in by Phuc Jung. There are some trigger warnings for this book: racism, cancer, child abuse, animal death, and police brutality. So this book is just about the author and how he was born in Vietnam, but like I think it was the year 1975 if I'm correct. I think so. Basically, he and his family immigrated to America due to the Vietnam War. It's just about his story and I really appreciate it, and I believe it started when he was like very young, but it ends when he graduated from high school. He really went in depth with everything, so of course it makes me very reflective on my experience here in America when I was very young, when I came to America, to when I graduated from high school, which is like 4 years ago. I just feel really old. So I listened to the audiobook and I think it was done very well. It is narrated by the author, so I really appreciate that because I always like to hear audiobooks narrated by the author. The writing is really good. I really enjoyed this book. Yes, we do learn about him and his family, but we also see like the extended family members as well. I think the representation is amazing because I feel represented when I listen to the audiobook. Obviously, you know, it's a memoir about a Vietnamese person, so of course I just relate to a lot of things that the author went through. Hi guys, I am currently editing the video right now and I really want to put this clip in because basically in the wrap-up video I talk about a very important issue that happens in the memoir. However, I find that I did not articulate my thoughts very well, so I really want to do it again with notes, as you can see. So basically the N-word with the hard R is in this book twice. The context is that the author is showing us the people in his life saying the N-word. So the first time I believe someone calls him the N-word with the hard R. The second time is that he basically witnesses this police saying the N-word. I was listening to the audiobook and hearing the author say the N-word with the hard R twice was triggering. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I talked to 2 of my friends about this because I know that a lot of Black people do not like when non-Black people use the N-word, especially with the hard R. So I believe when you read it physically, the N-word with the hard R is on the page, and of course when you're listening to the audiobook, you will literally hear the author says the N-word with the hard R. My friends and I, we talk about this and we have come to the conclusion that it's not really necessary for the author to spell it out for us. I feel like he could just say he calls me the N-word and I would totally understand that the bully calls him the N-word. I'm going to read you what my friend sent me because this part really stands out. Basically, I told her that somewhere in this book the author's father was being very racist towards Black people and the author and his brother basically challenged him, and she says people can defend Black people and still carry bias and do things that are harmful to Black people while not seeming to be overtly racist. He may not be actively going out of his way to hurt Black people, but the use of that word carries a lot of history and I don't think it should be taken lightly. Here's the thing, I'm so conflicted on this book because, like I said, I just really relate to the author, what he went through, the representation. We're both Vietnamese, we were born in Vietnam. However, this is not okay whatsoever. So I did give this book a 5 out of 5 stars, which is a really high rating, but I might have to dock a star down, I guess. So 4 out of 5 stars is pretty good. Whenever I mention this book on my channel, I will be very transparent that the author, who is not black, uses the N-word with the hard R twice. So I think that's about it for this part. I kid you not, this issue has been bothering me for like at least a month because I read this in the beginning of July. Let's just continue. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I will change my star rating on Goodreads. Yeah, that's about it. One of the things that really stand out in July is that I finished reading the Percy Jackson series with my boyfriend Jonathan, and I also read the Demigod Files, but I'll talk more about this later. The Sea of Monsters, I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. This was amazing. I really enjoyed this book, and the thing is, when I first read the series like back in 2014, I think, I remember not loving this book, but damn, my opinion was wrong 6 years ago. This was so funny. I just remember laughing so much because I just enjoyed the humor, and of course I love the characters as well. Percy, Annabeth, Tyson. Tyson is like one of my favorite characters in this series. He's adorable. Oh my god, I genuinely love Tyson so much. I'm really glad that we get to see a lot of him in this book. So yeah, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. The Titan's Curse. Oh my god, I love this book so much. So yeah, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars as well. I will say that we get to see 2 new characters, Bianca and Nico D'Angelo. Not a big fan of Bianca in this book because she's very annoying. I don't like the fact that she puts a lot of pressure on Percy regarding her brother Nico. Like, she just abandons her only brother and she's just like, Percy, can you look after him? No, I don't like that at all. Nico annoys me at the end, but later he redeems himself, so you know, I don't hate him. But in this book, I was annoyed with the sibling. This book makes me laugh and it makes me cry at the end. I remember reading the part at the end, can't tell you where, but I was sobbing my eyes out. Like, I did not expect to cry in this book, but I really did at the end because it really hit me. So yeah, gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. This is actually one of my favorite books in the series. This is also another favorite book in the series, The Battle of the Labyrinth. I feel like this is definitely the most popular in this series because holy shit, this was spectacular. We have a new character named Rachel Elizabeth Dare. She does play a huge role in this series. But not just that, we get to see Daedalus, we get to learn about his history, and then we get to see the Labyrinth. Of course, it was funny because it's Percy Jackson. I love the characters and I just love where the story is going. Overall, this book was amazing. I love these 2 books the most though. Like, these 2 are my favorite. They're like #1. I think I love this one a little bit more, but still I cannot ignore The Battle of the Labyrinth. It's literally phenomenal. It was so good. And now The Last Olympian, which is the last book in this series. I really thought that I was going to love this book, but no, I think I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and that is a little bit different because I gave the first 4 books 5 out of 5 stars. This book, of course, we have this huge battle going on, but when it comes to the prophecy, I was a little bit let down. But of course, Percabeth happened, so I'm not exactly mad at it. And then of course I read the Demigod Files. So as I was rereading the series, I remember this because I actually unhauled this book and the Demigod Diaries like a few months ago. But the thing is, I never got to donate the books because I've been in my house for like the past few months. So I took this out of closet, I read it, and now I'm just going to keep it again. There are 3 short stories in this, and I will say that you don't exactly need to read it before reading The Last Olympian. But if you want to see more content about Percy, Annabeth, Selena, and Charles Beckendorf, there's a short story in here. And then, oh my god, The Sword of Hades. I think it's Percy Jackson and The Sword of Hades. Anyway, this story is very important because you need to read this before reading The House of Hades, okay? This is The House of Hades. This is the 4th book in the Heroes of Olympus series. You need to read The Sword of Hades before you read The House of Hades. I am telling you, you need to read it, okay? So I am planning to reread the Heroes of Olympus sometime this year, and I'm very excited to actually start the series now because I'm ready, okay? I'm ready. So yeah, really enjoy this book. It's not really necessary, but if you're like a huge fan of Percy Jackson, then of course recommend this book. The next book that I read is Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. I actually reread this book for the Koreadathon because the second book is coming out in August and I wanted to be prepared. I actually read this book for the first time in December of 2019, so I'll have the wrap-up video down in the description box below because there's not much I can say because I already said what I had to say in my wrap-up video for December. But anyway, basically this book follows a gumiho named Mi Young, and she meets a boy named Ji Hoon and they fall in love, but of course it's very complicated because Mi Young's mother does not want her to fall in love with a mortal man. The thing is, I listened to this book on audiobook on its own. That's not the move because I found out that if I listen to an audiobook on its own when it's a fantasy book, it's just not fun because a lot of times I don't pay attention. I kind of regret listening to this on an audiobook because it was just a different experience, not a very good one. So I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars, which is like a bummer because I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars at the end of last year. I honestly hate reading a book again and then giving it a lower rating. It's annoying, but yeah, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars and I cannot wait to continue with the series because the second book is right over there and I definitely want to read it sometime in 2020. The next book is Please Look After Your Mom by Shin Kyok-suk, translated by Chi Young Kim. So this book, I read it for the Koreadathon. A trigger warning for this book: depression is in this, so of course be cautious when you read this book. This story is about this Korean family losing their mom at the subway station. What happened is that the mom and the dad, you know, the couple, they were at a subway station going to one of their children's house. The mom just disappeared and then of course they spent months looking for her. There are 4 chapters in this book and then an epilogue, but basically in the first chapter we learn about the daughter. Basically she is a writer and she just talks about her relationship with her mom and what she has discovered. In the second chapter it is from the oldest son's point of view. In the third chapter we get to see the husband, the person who was with her when she was lost, and of course we learn about how he took her for granted. In the fourth chapter we actually learn about the mom, but let me tell you, I was so confused when I read that chapter. After I finished the third chapter I was just like, oh my god, this book is actually really good. It's very enjoyable, the writing is really good, and I forgot to say that in the first 3 chapters are written in second point of view. I thought it was very different, but then when we get to the 4th chapter, which is about the mom, it's actually written in first person perspective. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this book, but when I finished it I was just like, it's okay. Like that was my reaction, like it's okay. Yeah, I give this book a 3 out of 5 stars, but I don't think this is like an average book. I don't know why I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. My star rating sucks, okay? Like it's not the best, but this book was actually really fun and enjoyable, so highly recommend this book. It's actually very different from everything I've read because this is actually translated from Korean to English. So yeah, very happy that I read this book for the Koreadathon. The last book that I read for the Koreadathon is Frankly in Love by David Yoon. There are some trigger warnings for this book: racism, shooting, panic attack, cheating, and cancer. So this book follows our main character named Frank. His parents are actually very racist. In the beginning of this book he ends up dating this white girl named Brit. Oh my god, is it Brit? Yeah, Brit. Of course he has to keep this relationship a secret because she is white and his parents really want him to date a Korean girl. So he ends up working with a friend whose name is Joy. She is Korean. She is dating someone who is not Korean. They end up fake dating so that they can go on a date, but really they're with their respective partners. I have a very complicated relationship with this book because when it comes to the romance, I don't care. First of all, Frank and Brit, his white girlfriend, I don't care about them. It was done so poorly, like how they got together. It was really weird. I think Brit has a crush on Frank in a way, and then immediately they get into a relationship and I feel like Frank is like so drawn to her just because she's right there. She is a single girl, she's pretty, and she is interested in him. I don't think he is interested in her in the same way. You know how I know? Because he ends up cheating on her. The cheating in here sucks. When he and Joy were like together in a way, I was like, okay, why couldn't we focus on Frank and Joy from the very beginning of this book? Why did we need this whole cheating thing? Because eventually Brit is out of the picture so quickly. She doesn't deserve to be cheated like this. So not a big fan of the romance, not a big fan of the cheating. As for the family relationship and stuff, oh my god, that was really great because even though his parents are like any other Asian parents, I get it. A tragedy happens in this and I cry at the end. Another complaint that I have, I think this will be the last thing that I will talk about when it comes to this book. His best friend Q comes out as gay at the end of this book, but it was done in a really weird way because Q just kisses Frank, and then of course I'm like, okay, Q is gay, that's good, but it's like, why did he come out at the end of this book? Why didn't he come out in like the middle of this book? Just because I really want to see the development when it comes to this, because I feel like his coming out thing was used as a plot twist, because like, yes, it's shocking, but that's about it. Like, he comes out at the end and then the book ends. So I really wish that this thing happened like in the middle of this book, so then we can see more of Q and his story throughout the rest of the book. At the end of the day, I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm glad I read this book because I've had this for like a few months and I've been wanting to read this book for a year now, so I am glad that I read this book, but still, it's not what I wanted in a book, I guess. Of course, I have to continue with the Heartstopper series, so I read volume 2 and then volume 3. Let's quickly talk about volume 2 because I really enjoyed this one and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. So in this volume, it's really about Charlie and Nick and how they're in a relationship. This book is actually very fun. I really enjoyed this book and I'm very glad that Nick and Charlie have come together and they're in a relationship. It's very cute and I just love the main characters so much. Volume 3 on the other hand is definitely my favorite volume so far. Look how thick this is, okay? There's so much content in this volume and I love everything about this. Real quick, there are some trigger warnings for this book: homophobia, eating disorder, and self-harm. In this volume, Nick, Charlie, and their friends go to Paris for like a week, I believe. It's like a school field trip. It was so much fun because I feel like Alice Oseman does a very good job illustrating Paris. What's really great is that we get to learn more about the side characters. We get to see them interact with our main characters, and of course we're dealing with some heavy topics like the fact that Charlie has an eating disorder and in the past he has harmed himself. Besides the heavy topics, this book was like really funny. It was just cute and heartwarming. I just really adore the characters in this series very much, so I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Like I said, this is my favorite volume thus far. I cannot wait to continue with volume 4. I have no idea when it's coming out. I genuinely love the series very much. Another memoir that I read in July is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. I read this book with my friend Tiffany for the reading rush because we both put this in our TBR and I asked her to read this with me, and of course I'm so glad that we did because this was really great, very informative. Of course, there are some trigger warnings for this book: racism, cheating, sexual assault, molestation, loss of virginity, and homophobia. Obviously, this book is by George M. Johnson. The writing is really great. I really love the fact that he goes in depth with everything. And then of course there are some chapters that are very triggering, so you know, be cautious before you read this book. Now, before I give my final rating, I will read this quote to you. I think it happens in the last chapter of this book. I wrote this down because the moment I heard it, I needed to write it down before I delete, you know, everything. So here's the quote: "You never truly get over death. It just gets easier to live each day." You don't understand how much I relate to this quote. So this book was amazing. I feel like it's so important to a lot of Black people in the LGBTQIA+ community. Although I really enjoy it, I don't have this 5 out of 5 stars feeling, you know, so I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. Still a good reading, but this book doesn't have my heart. But I know for a fact that in the future I definitely want to purchase this book because I want to have it in my collection. The next book is Your Name Volume 1. So this is by Makoto Shinkai and Ranmaru Koton. I don't know how to say that, but anyway, I read volume 1, and if you don't know, Your Name, the movie, is my favorite movie of all time. So of course I really want to read the manga, but let me just say this before I get to like the synopsis and stuff. I genuinely believe that the anime is much better, to be honest. It's a whole different experience when you watch the anime because number one, you get the voice actors, the animation, the music. Let's get back to this, okay? I read volume 1 of the manga. I really enjoy it, but like I said, it's not as good as the anime. So let me tell you what this is about. Holy shit. We have our two main characters named Mitsuha and Taki. Basically, they swap bodies. So Mitsuha would be Taki and then Taki would be Mitsuha. That's all I can say. Like I said, recommend the anime more than the manga because after finishing all 3 volumes, I'm just sitting here like, I didn't need to read the manga. But anyway, really enjoying it. I give this a 4 out of 5 stars, and I will talk about volume 2 and 3 in my August wrap up because I finished it a couple of days ago. The next book that I finished is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I read this book with Sandy because she really wanted to reread the first 3 books in the series, and I was like, oh, I'll reread An Ember in the Ashes with you. Here's the thing, I unhauled this book a couple of months ago, but you know, of course, I never got around to donating the books, so I just took this book out of the closet and then reread it, and I'm so glad I did because I really enjoy everything. So of course, there are some trigger warnings for this book: murder, violence, assault, slavery, sexual harassment, rape threats, and attempted rape. This book is hella dark. I don't remember it being this dark because I read this back in 2015. It's been 5 years. I feel so old. But anyway, back to this book. Basically, we have 2 main characters named Leia and Elias. In the beginning of this book, Leia's brother is being taken away. Her grandparents are killed like right in front of her. She manages to escape, but then she works with the rebellion and she has to pretend to be a slave in order to get information about the commandant, who is the principal of the school. That's how I view her, okay? And then we have Elias, who is the son of the commandant, and he is determined to leave this academy because he really hates it. An ogre basically told him to stay. Well, it's very complicated, but basically he changes his mind, he stays, and then he is thrust into this competition kind of thing. We have the emperor, but we need a new emperor, so there's like a trial going on, and Elias has to basically do his best. This book was great. It was so good. I just didn't expect it to be this good. I feel so bad for Leia because she is constantly abused by the commandant, and then we have a guy named Marcus. I absolutely hate Marcus. He is, without a doubt, a piece of shit. This book was really great. Like I said, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I am planning to read the second book in August, so hopefully you will see me talk about A Torch Against the Night in my August wrap up. The next book is Stargazing by Jan Wang. There are some trigger warnings for this book: violence and brain tumor. So this book is about Moon and Christine. Yeah, Christine. But basically this story is about Moon and Christine and how they become friends because they're basically neighbors, and of course we get to see the friendship, and of course we get to see how both girls are completely different. They're raised differently because Moon, I feel like her mom is very relaxed and Moon gets to do whatever she wants, like she can paint her nails. Christine, on the other hand, has very strict parents. Eventually Christine is very jealous of Moon because she's easygoing, she has friends, but of course tragedy strike for Moon. This book is really good. I feel like the friendship between Christine and Moon is actually very wholesome, is very pure, mostly because these 2 girls are in middle school, if I'm correct. I think they're like around 11 or 12 years old, so of course they're very innocent. But I will say that I like Moon way more than Christine because Christine annoys me in this book. She's very insecure, and at one point she kind of stabs her best friend in the back, so not a big fan of that. But the ending is really great. This book overall is very cute, so yeah, I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read in July is Beastars Volume 6 by Haru Itagaki. Basically we have the herbivores and the carnivores. They don't trust each other that much because in the beginning of volume 1 an herbivore is killed. It's really bad because a student is killed inside the school. Volume 6 is just okay in my opinion. There is like a part where it really got to me, but for the rest of the volume it was just okay, and that's all I can say. It's not my favorite volume, but I don't hate it, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So yeah, those are all of the books that I read in July. I had a pretty good reading month, and of course I am so happy that I finished rereading the Percy Jackson series. So I am planning to start the Heroes of Olympus series sometime in August, so I'm very excited about that. That's basically it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.